At 86 years old, Fred the Hammer Williamson stands in his home in Palm Springs, California. The sun is setting, the desert is quiet, and somewhere in a filing cabinet, buried under decades of contracts, lawsuits, and studio rejections, there's a piece of paper with 3 handwritten rules. Rules that changed Hollywood forever, rules that made him a legend, and rules that got him blacklisted, attacked, and erased from the history books. Rule number 1, you can't kill me in a movie. Rule number 2, I have to win all my fights in a movie. Rule number 3, I get the girl if I want it. No black actor in the 1970s dared to make demands like that. No black man in America had the audacity to look a white producer in the eye and say, "These are my terms, take it or leave it." But Fred Williamson wasn't just any black man. He was the Hammer, a former NFL linebacker who knocked opponents unconscious with a single forearm strike. A man who walked into Super Bowl I and told the entire nation, "I'm going to destroy Green Bay's receivers." A man who built his own film studio when Hollywood slammed the door in his face. A man who publicly called out Oprah Winfrey and said, "She doesn't represent us." And now, decades later, the question remains, was Fred Williamson a hero who opened doors for an entire generation? Or was he a dangerous, violent rebel who Hollywood was right to bury? Today, we uncover the truth they've been hiding for 50 years. Don't forget to hit follow, because what comes next will shatter everything you thought you knew about Black Hollywood. March 5th, 1938. Gary, Indiana. A baby boy is born into a world that doesn't want him. His father, Frank Williamson, is a welder. His mother, Lydia, is a seamstress. They live in an industrial city choked with smoke, divided by race, where whites-only signs hang on every door that matters. The family isn't starving, but they're one paycheck away from disaster. And from the moment Fred can walk, he learns one truth that will define his entire life. If you don't lift yourself up, nobody's coming to save you. Gary, Indiana, in the 1940s and 50s isn't just segregated, it's a war zone. Black kids go to black schools. White kids go to white schools. And if you cross that line, you pay for it with blood. When Fred's family moves to East Chicago, he becomes one of the few black kids in a white classroom. And the other kids make sure he knows he doesn't belong. They mock him, they push him, they test him every single day. And Fred pushes back. Hard. He doesn't talk about fairness. He doesn't ask for respect. He takes it. With his fists, with his speed, with a fury that terrifies even the teachers. The school calls him a troublemaker. But Fred knows the truth. Those fights aren't about anger, they're about survival. They're about the right to exist in a world that wants him invisible. But Fred has something most kids in Gary don't have. Talent. Raw, undeniable, impossible to ignore talent. A PE teacher notices the way Fred moves on the field. Fast, powerful, fearless. He joins the track team, the basketball team, the football team. And suddenly on the field, the color of his skin doesn't matter. Only strength matters, only speed matters, only winning matters. And Fred starts winning. A lot. But here's the thing most people don't know about Fred Williamson. He wasn't just an athlete, he was smart, brilliant even. He excelled in math, he loved technical drawing. He was fascinated by architecture, something almost unheard of for a black boy from a working-class home. And when his athletic success combined with his grades, something miraculous happened. He got a scholarship to Northwestern University, one of the top schools in the country. For a kid from Gary, that was like breaking through a wall built of race, poverty, and a system designed to keep him down. At Northwestern, Fred kept playing football while studying architecture. His confidence, his swagger, his refusal to shrink earned him a nickname, Hollywood Fred. From a boy the system tried to bury in Gary, Fred Williamson was becoming someone the world couldn't ignore. But he had no idea that the nickname Hollywood Fred was a prophecy, a warning, a glimpse into a future where he would battle the most powerful industry on earth and refuse to lose. Fred Williamson officially steps onto an NFL field wearing the Oakland Raiders uniform. He's 23 years old, 6'3", 218 pounds, and he has a chip on his shoulder the size of the entire city of Gary. This is the 1960s. Professional football is filled with prejudice. Black players are allowed on the field, sure, but only in certain positions deemed less important. Running back? Fine. Wide receiver? Maybe. But defensive back, a position requiring strategy, intelligence, leadership, that's reserved for white players. That's the prestigious wall, and Fred Williamson kicks that door wide open. He doesn't just play defensive back, he dominates it. With a style so aggressive, so violent, so unrelenting, that coaches start screaming at him during practice. "Stop hammering your own players," they yell. And that's how the nickname is born. Not Hollywood Fred anymore. The Hammer. A name that everyone on the field, in the locker room, in the stands understands means one thing. He shows no mercy. Fred creates a signature move, the forearm hammer, a backward forearm strike smashing straight into an opponent's helmet. The impact is so powerful the entire stadium hears it, a crack that cuts through 50,000 screaming fans. Every time the hammer strikes, the stands explode, half in fear, half in excitement. Teams walk onto the field thinking, "Stay away from number 24 if you don't want to lose your memory." The NFL finds him, then finds him again, then finds him again. But the more they fine him, the more famous he becomes. Opponents only need to hear the sound once, pads hitting helmet plastic, to feel chills run down their spine. And then a chant rises from the stands and spreads across America. "Watch out for the Hammer." It's no longer a nickname. It's a warning. It's survival. Fred once said, 20,000 people watch me walk onto the field. 10,000 boo. 10,000 cheer. That's perfect because they are looking at me. Peak defiance. Peak understanding of power. Peak Fred Williamson. By 1966, Fred and the Kansas City Chiefs win the AFL championship. They march into Super Bowl Y, the first Super Bowl in football history. The entire nation is watching. White America, Black America, everyone. And Fred Williamson, standing in front of a microphone, delivers a line that shocks the sports world. "I'm going to knock out both of Green Bay's receivers. 2 hammers for Dowler, 1 for Dale." America has never seen a black man speak like that. So bold, so confident, so unapologetic. The media goes wild. White audiences are terrified. Black audiences are electrified. And when the game starts, Fred charges in like a black arrow cutting through a sea of red and white. But fate spins cruel. In one collision, Fred gets hit. Hard. He collapses, and he's carried off the field on a stretcher. At that moment, many people think the loud rebel has finally been silenced. But they're wrong, because lying on that stretcher, as the stadium roars the Hammer, Fred Williamson is sealed into legend. He proved that in the NFL, the most important thing isn't just winning. It's being the one the world can't stop watching. And he did that in an era when black athletes were told to shut up, play the game, and be grateful. When Fred's NFL career ends in 1967 after 8 seasons, 104 games, 36 interceptions, and a legacy that will never die, he looks at Hollywood and sees another war to fight. Another system built to keep black people in their place. Another empire that needs to be challenged. So he walks into Los Angeles with the same energy he brought to the football field, and he sets 3 rules that will change cinema forever. Late 1960s, early 1970s. Hollywood is entering a strange, explosive era. The blaxploitation wave, action and crime films led by black actors. Black American audiences are hungry, starving, desperate to see someone like themselves on screen. Strong, dignified, standing at the center of power. Not the side character who gets beaten down and dies in the first 10 minutes. And Fred Williamson, with his towering frame, sharp features, football fame, and the nickname The Hammer, becomes the perfect model for a new kind of black male icon. Proud, unbreakable, never bowing down. But when Fred walks into his first audition, Hollywood doesn't care that he was an NFL star. To them, Fred is just a big black guy, perfect to play a criminal who gets shot dead in the first 10 minutes. And that's when Fred pulls out a piece of paper, 3 rules, written in his own handwriting, rules that will define his entire career. Rule number 1, I don't die on screen. Rule number 2, I have to win every fight, every confrontation, every clash. My character must be the ultimate winner. Rule number 3, if there's a female lead, I get the girl. I'm the one standing victorious, not crushed. This isn't just demanding benefits, it's a declaration. Black people can be at the center. Black people can be strong. Black people can be heroes. not background decoration for white stories. Hollywood, dripping with prejudice, doesn't like that. Producers laugh, agents shake their heads. Directors say, "Who does this guy think he is?" But Fred responds with silence and action. He ignores cheap contracts. He refuses roles where his character dies. He walks away from offers that don't meet his terms. And slowly, painfully, he starts getting roles that matter. He appears on famous TV shows. Ironside in 1968. Star Trek in 1969. One of the rare series featuring a black officer character. Mission Impossible. The Rookies. Julia. Each time he appears on TV, the image of black people takes a step upward. And then 1972 arrives, the movie Hammer. It's not just a film, it's the official birth of the Hammer in Hollywood. Fred goes from former athlete to black action leading man, and the world takes notice. Black Caesar explodes into theaters. Fred plays Tommy Gibbs, a black man raised through violence and oppression who climbs to the top of New York's criminal underworld. Fred turns a gangster character into a symbol of power and revenge. American audiences are stunned. For the first time in their lives, they see a black boss ruling New York, not begging for respect, not asking for permission, taking it with fists, intelligence, and absolute dominance. The theaters pack. The box office explodes. The film pulls in around $2 million in rentals in the US and Canada alone. Not waiting for Hollywood to give him another chance, Fred makes the sequel in the same year. Hell Up in Harlem, 1973. Shot quickly. Low budget. But when Fred Williamson's name appears on the poster, theaters fill again. $1.55 million in rentals confirms it. The Hammer isn't lucky. He's what the market demands. He's what the people want. He's undeniable. But by the late 1970s, something shifts. Blaxploitation is being criticized by the media and black activist groups. They say it exploits criminal and violent imagery. They say it makes black people look bad. Major studios listen. They stop funding. They cut distribution. They label the entire genre outdated and harmful. And overnight, black actors who were just making millions are pushed aside. Hollywood flips on them instantly. Producers who begged Fred to be in their movies now won't return his calls. Directors who called him a legend now pretend he doesn't exist. The doors slam shut. And many black actors disappear. But Fred Williamson refuses to disappear. He knows that if Hollywood controls the narrative, black people will be twisted, erased, rewritten. So in the mid-1970s, Fred makes the boldest move of his life. He creates his own film production company, Po' Boy Productions. And he moves to Rome, Italy to make low-budget action films on his own terms. Fred takes control of everything. Writing, directing, casting, editing. Movies like Boss in 1975, Mr. Mean in 1977, Death Journey, all films fully commanded by Fred. He's no longer just in front of the camera. He runs everything behind it. When Hollywood doesn't give him power, Fred builds his own mini-empire. Without waiting for anyone to hand him an opportunity, he writes his own scripts, shoots his own films, and turns himself into the boss. That's how Fred Williamson becomes one of the first black filmmakers to truly hold creative power in Hollywood. Po' Boy Productions produces more than 20 to 40 films over the decades. He doesn't need the Oscars' approval. He has the approval of the people. He has loyal audiences. He has box office success. He has creative control. He thrives, becoming the black James Bond of that era. Stylish, dangerous, intelligent, unbreakable. Without Fred Williamson paving the way, Hollywood would have taken much longer to accept names like Denzel Washington, Wesley Snipes, Samuel L. Jackson, and Michael B. Jordan standing front and center on a poster as the hero. The Hammer didn't just change movies. He changed how America saw black people. But one thing that made the Hammer a nightmare for Hollywood was that he wasn't afraid to clash, not afraid to confront power. Even when that power was one of the most untouchable figures in American media. Early 2000s. Hollywood is shifting. The industry prioritizes a new generation, fresh faces, stories considered more civilized and safe. At that time, one of the most prominent black figures in Hollywood is Oprah Winfrey. She commands a globally influential talk show. She possesses tremendous media power. Many black artists admire Oprah, believing she elevated the image of black people to a respected level. But Fred Williamson doesn't see it that way. In a widely circulated interview, captured on camera at a table full of high-profile figures, his voice is low and steady. She doesn't represent us, not the real us. Fred believes Oprah does not stand with black artists like him, those who fought, bled, and broke barriers to open doors for the next generation. In his view, Oprah only supports those who fit the values she wants to promote. Tough, fierce, rebellious black artists are often ignored by her. The image of black people represented in Oprah's media leans toward what is safe, easy to accept for white audiences. Fred states plainly, she doesn't represent us, not the real black community. He doesn't say it behind her back. He says it directly, on television, in an interview. That immediately draws public attention. Fred makes it clear he doesn't care about pleasing anyone, not even Oprah. He declares, Hollywood didn't make me. They needed me. It's a bold and risky statement because he knows he's speaking against one of the most powerful figures in entertainment at the time, and speaking out against Oprah and the media establishment comes with consequences. Studios stop inviting him. The press stops covering him. His name slowly fades from the public eye. Everyone understands one thing. When you go up against Oprah, you go up against the entire system. But Fred accepts that. He says he will never compromise just to appear more in Hollywood. Even though American media sidelines him for years, history shows that Fred Williamson was the pioneer who paved the way for black action superstars. He proved black actors could play powerful roles with opinions, with leadership, not controlled or overshadowed, and that strength is exactly what made him impossible to fit into any easy-to-accept mold. But behind the iconic NFL forearm strike and those fearless action hero roles, Fred's life is far from perfect. In 2019, a woman named Wendy Blank, a costume assistant, publicly accuses Fred of inappropriate conduct on a film set. The case is reported by the Daily Beast in June 2020, causing a wave of public attention. Fred strongly denies all accusations, insisting they are baseless and completely false. The truth remains debated, but the case casts a shadow over his legacy. A pioneering symbol for the black community now tied to controversy. Alongside lawsuits and accusations, Fred's personal life is filled with rumors of romance, fitting his image as a smooth, fearless black James Bond. During his 20 years living in Italy, he is rumored to have romantic relationships with several famous Italian actresses. The Italian press gives him a powerful and intimidating nickname, the man who made Rome tremble. Fred Williamson becomes known for his intensity and realism in action scenes. Coming from a tough NFL background, he carries the physical brutality of the field straight onto the movie set, leading to real accidents and real lawsuits, legal battles over violence on set. Fred believes action should feel real, with minimal special effects or stunt doubling. He follows this principle relentlessly, regardless of consequences. In many action films of the 1970s and 1980s, his powerful style results in real injuries for other actors. Although the details of these lawsuits are not widely publicized, industry sources confirm there were legal issues caused by such incidents. These controversies spread quickly, reinforcing his reputation as dangerous on set. Producers and actors know that working with the Hammer means a high risk of getting hurt. It only strengthens his image as a violent, unstoppable hero, both on and off screen. Behind all the chaos, all the battles, all the broken rules, Fred chooses a surprisingly private family life. In the early 1960s, while still dominating the football field, he marries Jeanette Lavanda. The marriage lasts about 7 years before ending in 1967. No public battles, no media scandal. They simply go separate ways. It takes more than 20 years for Fred to find a new foundation. In 1988, he marries Linda Williamson. No million-dollar wedding, no magazine coverage, but the marriage lasts to this day. In the late 1990s, the couple moves to Palm Springs, California, a quiet desert oasis of sunshine and peace, a choice that shows the man who played fearless rebels on screen actually treasures calmness when it comes to real love. Official records note that Fred has at least 3 children. Some sources say possibly 6, but neither he nor his family has confirmed the exact number. Just like in his filmmaking career, Fred closely protects his family's privacy. He rarely mentions his children's names, and family photos almost never appear publicly. To him, fame is his. Peace belongs to his family. There's one thing rarely mentioned when people talk about the Hammer. Fred Williamson isn't only a warrior on the field and on screen. He also has a heart that cares deeply for those who carry scars, especially those who suffered through war. In 2013, Fred joins the Wounded Warrior Project during Veterans Day events in New York. The Wounded Warrior Project is a non-profit organization that supports injured veterans, helping them access mental health care, social reintegration, and transition back into civilian life. The image of the Hammer, once famous for his hard hits and tough persona, now appearing in a campaign to help those who carried guns and faced war, is a turning point. From defending himself and his reputation to defending others who once defended the country. Unlike many celebrities who launch their own foundations or turn charity into big publicity events, Fred's contributions are rarely flashy, but they are steady and sincere. In a society obsessed with glitter and spotlight, his quiet support for veterans delivers a powerful message. Never forget those who fought for freedom, even when they are no longer on the front lines. Fred Williamson's decision to leave Los Angeles isn't just a change in geography. It's a deliberate move to protect his authenticity. He recognizes the suffocating and artificial nature of the film capital, where a person's value is measured by fame and glamorous invitations. For a man who values realism and conviction, LA has become superficial. He moves his independent film company, Po' Boy Productions, to Chicago, Illinois, a place where he feels more connected to real life, an industrial-grounded city that doesn't obsess over appearances. This landing isn't a sign of weakness or early retirement. It's a conscious choice to protect his creative fire and his unbreakable identity. In Chicago, Fred lives a simpler life, far from the constant surveillance of Hollywood media and meaningless power games. He's still the Hammer, still working hard, but at a different rhythm. He proves you can run a successful production company, make profits, and keep your independence without being in the center of power. In his 80s, Fred Williamson remains a living monument to independence and determination. Time may gray his hair, but it cannot extinguish his drive or his relentless work ethic. He refuses to be defined by age or society's expectations of quiet retirement. He continues making films, joining new projects such as VFW in 2019, and inspiring others. Every action he takes in his later years is a declaration that his story is far from over. He doesn't need an Oscar's approval. He already has complete respect from the community, from loyal fans who have followed him for decades, and most importantly, from himself. The creative power he seized in the 1970s is still firmly in his hands. Fred Williamson is not just an actor, not just an athlete, not just a standout personality. He is a symbol who opened the door for many to follow, for generations to rise behind him. Fred was one of the pioneers who brought the black action hero to the big screen, breaking stereotypes and transforming how audiences viewed black people and people of color as a whole. He didn't need Hollywood's approval. He did it himself, producing, financing, and telling his own stories through his own studios. The way he lives as a fully independent man is a powerful declaration. Hollywood doesn't define me. I define myself. That is his timeless legacy. Not just films, not just fame, but pride of voice for black people and a model for standing up on your own terms. Fred Williamson has lived countless roles: athlete, actor, director, producer, regular man, father, friend, and at times, someone the world forgot. He may not always be on posters. He may not always be the leading man, but he remains a symbol of a generation. Black strength, black self-determination, black resilience. And when you think of Fred Williamson, don't just remember the punches, the action scenes, or the gangster roles. Remember the man who dared to go against the current, who dared to stand for what was right, who used his fame not only for himself, but for others, who wrote 3 rules on a piece of paper and refused to compromise even when it cost him everything. Was Fred the Hammer Williamson a rebel or a trailblazer, a legend or a victim of Hollywood? The answer is, he was all of it. And maybe that's the most honest thing we can say about any man who refuses to be controlled. If this story made you see Fred Williamson differently, if it made you question what Hollywood tried to bury, don't stay silent. Like, share, and subscribe so we can keep honoring the legends who shaped history. Because a legend lives on only when we remember them. And Fred Williamson deserves to be remembered not as Hollywood wanted him to be, but as he truly was. Unbreakable, unstoppable, uncontrollable. All data, analysis, and commentary in this video are presented based on information available at the time of production. The content is subject to change over time and should not be considered a definitive conclusion. There is still so much more to explore. Stories of resilience, legacy, and the truth behind Hollywood's closed doors. Feel free to dive into some of our other recommended videos and continue the journey into the stories they never wanted you to hear.